Saturday or something.
See people logged in. Anyone hear me? Can anyone hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. That's all I wanted to confirm before I started.
Yeah.
And the closed captioning just kicked in for Bradley too. Cool.
Also, I need to see the I turn on the fish night. I might get the first of all. It's not.
Worth asking. There was different angles on beach, right? Hamburgers and stuff like friends with one of the kids and like all of a sudden we get together. Sometimes the right person acts the right way.
I just got out and go.
We got 4 fish between 3 kids. No one puked. As bad as it was in the morning, we had 2 different west waves, southwest and northwest. So I just pointed it straight east and rode the back of them. And one kid got a little woozy, but for the most part, they were fine.
Yeah.
And so got 2 like juvenile kings and then 2 3-year-olds. So they were happy. And I didn't puke anymore, so I was happy.
How far did you go out?
140 to 170 is where we caught the fish.
I never liked that. I'd say that's very consistent this year.
Okay.
Did you get out on this next one? Yeah, because I got caught up with phone calls from DA.
Yeah, that's probably not a bad thing.
Shredded white.
So I'm going.
I just wanted to see what that fish.
Oh, all right.
Awesome.
On your boats?
Yeah, very much thought myself probably.
I think we definitely.
He just ran though, I mean, it's, listen, no, it just ran.
All right, once Jim pops back in, we'll get started. We got all the cool kids here now.
Did I just see that? I'm driving in that rubbish.
Irv, you like my stand for projector? Custom cut PVC. I still had to use Dixie cup lids to lift the back up, so that means I got them cut a little too high. I'm gonna have to make a set that's like 2 inches tall instead of 3.5 or something.
Single now, it just.
No, I didn't. Is this the last term of the year?
At least I don't.
I'm done. Mike, thanks. You picked up a lot of times. All today, so we wouldn't have fished this last term that I would. So.
Yeah.
With a buddy of mine.
Well, I actually have a campaign, I'll have
All right, let's get it started. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the September club meeting for Salmon Unlimited Wisconsin. I know we have, I think like, this is the most people we've actually had online for one of our meetings. I think we had 6 people logged in so far, which is kind of cool. I know a 7th person who actually is supposed to be logged in. He was the one who asked me to send that link out at the last minute. But we will get started in the traditional sense. Moment of silence or sunshine reports. Obviously, today's September 11th in memoriam. Actually, I think I saw a post from Bob. It was there this morning or last night, just reminding me of that too. And then the other one that I know of is I think we're still missing a diver out of Kenosha.
Not alive.
Alive? Okay. That was, yeah, if I remember, he was diving the, was it the USS Wisconsin or? Yeah, out over 6 miles out over 100 foot of water on his birthday. And his wife was in the boat and got worried because he hadn't come up when he was scheduled to, so. Anyone else, glad to see you upright. Seems like a different story every week, but keep on kicking. Anyone else, for the club members to keep in mind? News and notes. Lily's not here with me tonight. She got new brace wires, new rubber bands, and they put like the rubber bands from the top and bottom jaw. So she is just in a pissy, peachy mood. So I bought her a whole bunch of rice pudding. All right, with that, Mike. What do we got on membership?
Yeah, memberships, we've got a little over 200, currently active in our membership roll. And we've sent out, email to all of those that were in the old file that, have not bothered to renew. We got 2 of them here at our meeting tonight that have, taken advantage of getting on board with us again. And, hopefully, since that just went out today, hopefully within the next week or so, we'll be seeing, some of those folks that were with us last year and the year before coming back on board. So if you know people that have been on, in the club in the past that for some reason you haven't seen them here at any of the meetings or any of the outings, give them a buzz or shake their cage a little bit, tell them we miss them and we want to get them back on board.
All right, cool. Thank you. Beyond that.
Oh, and the
Oh.
sign-in sheet
No, he's
is
got
back
one.
in the corner there, so if you haven't seen it yet, or you guys can pass it around. There's a couple folks that have studied it. Haven't signed in yet.
Someone need this?
All right, that'll get passed around. Fishing reports, I know. Obviously, we just came off our final jackpot event and, it's just reminded that this weekend is the, Big Pond Brawl, so I know some lips might be a little tight. We did go back out the evening. I took out some Boy Scouts and one of my, former, scout mates from when, I was down in the troop down in Illinois. And did better in the afternoon than my puking in the morning. But 140 to 170 worked kind of where you guys were if you had the stomach to stay out there in the morning. And I haven't been out since Sunday. So anything, Craig, you've probably been peeking around.
I mean, I just got back into town and fishing Sunday and harbor was terrible. I mean, we were 1 for 2 in the harbor and I don't think anybody else would want to bite. Out front of the harbor, it was tough. Then offshore, like you said, 140, 170, smaller kings and some lake trout in there and a couple steelhead. Seems like earlier in the morning is better for the offshore bite. And then the harbor, who the hell knows? I mean. Fishing's relatively similar.
I was gonna ask him if anyone would know.
We got getting switch by half hour actual fly.
And I'm like 140 to 160. That was the best action for all 6.
I don't know.
There's tons of bait coming in. There's tons of bait between 140 and the hill. So if you get some colder water, slide in, but that cold water is still down
90 feet, yeah.
Oh yeah, you guys got the fancy boots, you know. But then we just got in 140 to 160, where we took all our bites, took it out to 210. Tons of fish out there, but gosh, well, maybe hard to convince them to go.
Did you guys fish early in the morning today or?
No.
Just
Yeah, it was a case outing, so we had 6 boats out there.
Oh, cool.
Say, I got a report from down closer to the border. I know it's a little further from here in Racine, but buddy of mine fished this morning solo, went 7 for 9 out in 110 to 130, just off the edge of the hill. So it sounds like down close to the border fishing's pretty good, but a lot of juvenile kings.
Yeah.
Yeah, they 2 and 3 year olds.
That's all we had on Sunday afternoon too.
Yeah.
Flasher, spoon.
Spoons, he said had 7 of his, or maybe it was 8 for 9. He had 7 of his 8 bites on a regular sandbur on a SWR down 75. So he put the same spoon on another rigger, couldn't get it touched. You know, that one's got a special bend to it.
Where am I buying that spoon?
I bought one that I lost it.
Yeah, but you gotta have the one with the bend in it.
Bradley says that he only catches little ones on it, and so he has it on his boat.
Well, here they got a half a dozen or so fish.
Yeah,
If it gets long.
Yeah,
Ronnie put a post out today, third cast, he got one.
are they
Yeah.
Chinooks or they're getting too cold?
There's some.
Yeah.
The big kingfisher paddle, big chrome kingfisher paddle with a. Bullfrog fly behind it, it's on the bottom, flips fast. We're pulling all fish off the bottom, it's not just trout down there, you'll pull Chinook off the bottom too. Got a steelhead on that this afternoon. Yeah, we got a steelhead this afternoon, so, when you get that hot water down 100 feet, you never know what's laying on the bottom.
Everything. All right,
Buoy's
yeah, we're,
coming out soon when we have the buoy talk, I guess
yeah,
we told him he wants to have it out early, we asked him to keep it in until after the brawl tournament at least, when the tournaments were done. But I think as soon as that's over and he gets a good day, he's going to, cause the captain that pulls it out is getting married October 6th, was it?
right.
Or somewhere in there, and he wants all the buoys out before his wedding / honeymoon.
Yeah.
So,
Fair enough. We also have continued conversations with Foundryist and the team that links up to Seagull. The NOAA site is reporting, I'd say within a half hour, every, maybe an hour at the latest.
I almost sent him another email today, like, we didn't get that.
Feel free, yeah. So the NOAA site works fine. It's not a data transmission issue like we were thinking it might be from the buoy in. It's something in the handshake from where the data comes into Seagull to that site. But that's the one that shows the thermocline data, so it's more important to us.
The thermocline data is great, but for charters especially, but just knowing the wave heights, so.
Yeah.
So we can kind of make a more informed decision on what we're gonna take our customers out at, whether we're gonna go or no, but it's really helpful.
Then
The mid lake, that's way the fuck out.
42 miles away. Yeah, that's the nice thing about ours is it's not just that average of the top third that NOAA shows. There's still that 17% of waves that are higher than that, where ours shows the max height when it's reporting on time via Seagull. So if we can get that piece fixed, it's actually worth its weight. Oh, jackpot series. Bradley has delivered a message for me to read off. Good evening, everyone. It has been interesting last few weeks with crazy weather. However, jackpot series went on and was completed this past Sunday, August 24th. We had technically our fourth leg. While there were a lot of lead changes and at least 4 of all the 5 big species were changed, which makes sense toward the end of the year. We saw some impressive catches while at it. However, last Sunday, which was our final backup third leg, fishing wasn't the greatest with all northeast winds few days prior. No major changes in leads happened, but still was on a good day to close out the 2024 jackpot season. Overall series top 3 boats. First place went to Seamate. Second place, and I think I got that on the next slide. Second place went to Net Result. Third place to Go Devil, and fourth place to Blue Knight. Biggest fish of the year went to Musclehead with a 24.05 pound king. Seamate had the biggest coho at 11.25 pounds. Net Result had biggest lake trout at 22.35. Game Time had the biggest brown at 6.75, and Blue Knight biggest steelhead at 13.55 pounds. Even though there were a couple of postponings and cancellation days, it was a good season. A huge thank you to all the sponsors, all the lunch donors, the jackpot committee, and the volunteers that made it possible to be a fantastic club outing or tournament. It wouldn't have happened without all of them. A bonus note, local veteran outreach greatly benefited from it, and I popped over a slide for this one too. On the last 2 legs. Even though last Sunday was not great fishing, we still caught and donated a combined 335 pounds of fish fillets and over the last 2 legs. And I think it was your suggestion on the vacuum sealer that came about, but the club also granted and donated a chamber vacuum sealer to the VOW as well. And yeah, it is his understanding that all the fish has already been utilized. That is correct. Even the fish he had on Sunday was gone like the next day. So we are making a huge impact with the Veterans Center here in Racine. The committee is currently pretty much wrapping up the 2025 season, or 2024 season. We'll be starting on the 2025 season sometime soon. He will start to feed information out regarding meetings throughout the off season until the next spring comes. He'll also do various raffles in the interim and other items to help fundraise for 2025. Next month's meeting, he will start a Super Bowl pool, so be sure to look for details on that. He also, Bradley does have, if any of you guys, you're building things where you're worried about like water rot on wood, he's got access to these plastic, they're like 1x6 plank boards. They can be used for building the bottom of tree stands or deer stands or something where you don't want it to get rotted if it's sitting on the ground. Reach out to him if you want to see pictures of what he's got or what he has access to, but basically anything that he is able to sell, he's donating into the jackpot event for next year.
Josh,
Yes.
for that, do they only take donations of fish at a certain time or like we coordinate?
And I can get you in touch with Mary Lee and then she with the team there, but they're open most days of the week. They have staff on site. It's just a matter of making sure they have someone to receive the fish. You know, in this case, we organized it where is it Jason, did you line up the ice, the connection on that?
I got it with Foxhole.
Yeah.
Now we're open anytime.
Yeah, so Jamie at the Foxhole allowed Dave and I to run and get a full cooler full of ice so that we could bag all these up and while we finished our event and such. And then Mary Lee and their executive director or one of their team members and then a couple of us would run it over and drop it off at their freezers.
So there's tournaments and whenever throughout the year that you see a lot of fish.
Yes.
Sitting there waiting to be cleaned and
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of it is. Base.
Yeah, they at first when we got the first 200 and some pounds over to them, I think the comment we loaded it out into the cooler was, oh boy, don't rush on any more. This is gonna take us a while. And like within 4 days, it was gone. Mary Lee called us back and said, well, that was really popular. And then this stuff went in 1 day.
Well, with the vacuum sealer that it's like it's so easy.
Yeah, especially the chamber style Jim was suggesting to them. So I know my tabletop one sucks. I need to invest in one of those for multiple things. But yeah, congratulations again to the club, its members, the people who donated and filleted. It's a ton of effort, but it was well appreciated by the veterans of Rescue Center.
Thanks, Brad, for running this for the year.
Yes,
And all the work you've done.
Bradley and the rest of the committee for our jackpot, we appreciate it. Going on from one committee to another. 'Tis the season.
Tis the season, so we're in the middle of the transition from 24 into 25.
Did it ever stop?
I believe, well, it never really stopped, but, I think finally got all the checks issued. Except for the ones at the post office damaged, there was a little bit of issue. We are gonna have to incorporate a couple of rules into next year because of this year. Winners of over $599 next year will have to fill out a W-9 within 15 days. If it's not done within 15 days, you just are gonna be eliminated from your leagues.
15 might be a little. 30's probably.
Tell them 15.
15 days.
Not 60 or 90 like I've been tracking.
Yeah, we're still chasing about a half dozen.
We have a divisional winner we've seen in person multiple times and we still haven't got.
So obviously, when we make these rule changes, it's not because we're out to get anyone. We just cannot drag this stuff out for months and months. The problem then is it ties up everybody else's checks.
Taxes too, like that. It would make me the books.
Right, but there is a reason behind a lot of these rule changes that people see, and that's the number one thing. So, as of right now, all the checks have been issued, except for the half a dozen that haven't done W-9s. We are starting to transition into 2025. The one thing about Salmonorama over the years is the amount of participants have been fairly the same year after year. We've gained a little bit. I remember when this event first started, it was 10,000, then it grew to 15,000. We went to 20 to 25 to 30 to 33. And last year, obviously being the 50th anniversary, we decided to do the 50,000. With the transition of all these years put in together, because the number of participants have been so accurate. It's made payouts and figuring payouts extremely easy. There's only a few little modifications. So to not screw that up for 2025, grand prize will again be 50,000. So. We're gonna move that ass, but at least I don't have a bunch of work to do at the end doing the payouts.
And if we do, it was fully supported by the board.
Yes.
This isn't just Jim.
Yeah.
This was
Checks you
like,
don't get, call Jason, the rest of the complaints go to the board.
yeah,
But again, 50,000, again. We are looking to try and utilize some areas that we need some help in, website, advertising, video content. One of the things I think our event is really missing is reaching a broader area besides just the southern part of the state. And we are very limited on how many people we have on our committee, but we're even more limited in the capabilities of a lot of the members. So if you are ever bored and want to come down to a meeting, our meetings are the first Monday of every month.
except for this coming one.
Yeah, except for October. Our next meeting will be here September 30th. And then we'll go to the first Monday of every month after that. But you can come down and get a little bit of an update, even if you want to stop in with suggestion, ideas. We're always open to take people's input, especially the anglers. Definitely gonna be looking for more sponsors, but a lot of little areas, if you know people, one of our big ones right now is a sponsorship request letter. If anybody knows anybody that does that or has experience in soliciting, that's a huge advantage to us, especially for larger corporations, so. Again, there's about 4 or 5 of us that really put in all this effort. And if anybody can come down and help us with some of these areas, greatly appreciated. You just want to come down and see where we're at for the year. Everybody's more than welcome.
Yeah, sometimes it just opens eyes to what all's going on too. On the volunteer side too. You know, one of the things that we struggle with is a lot of the people who volunteer throughout the year in planning this, they're people that want to fish. So if you have family or friends that like to get involved that aren't fishing and would be interested in being involved at the actual event, that's invaluable to us.
Another thing I forgot is we will be back at Festival Hall.
Oh, yeah.
We will be making some modifications. It was the first time last year. We put it together. We learned a few
lot
things.
of things.
One of the things will be the weigh-in will not be where it was last year. It'll be over closer to the gates to allow easier access to get in and out.
Yeah.
But again, last year was a learning experience and we'll make some modifications, but again, any input on the site for the tournament, we're always open to suggestions or ideas.
There's a lot of, when I was running away and a lot of people asking to donate fish, and obviously we weren't set up for it, so. There's an opportunity there.
Yeah.
You know, probably to get some more fish and then to get a person or two to clean them. Or we just shut it down and have the guy running like me, just go clean them, take
So
it down for an hour.
Mary Lee said that some of the members of the BOW were open to like laying on certain times. We might be able to utilize them too, knowing that it's helping their own cause. So that's something we can reach out and work on. I do have some good news for you. Number one, Master Services is confirmed. They will be the Veterans Luncheon sponsor again. They told me keep the banner. We're coming back. And I did get a hold of Tom. He's out of town. We're gonna line up that connection probably in about 2 weeks. He's gonna try to do the reach out to the lady at Case. But yeah, Master Services is already committed and on board as one of our sponsors for next year.
Yeah, I just got a notice from DNR that they did finish the data entry. So on Monday, I'll do the permit, so.
Craig has applied for the.
So
He shared with me.
We'll be good to go with it.
Yeah. Well, hell, my pizza came and our guest speakers are here. So I'm gonna turn it over. I asked Captain Sarah and her team if they would come out and talk to us a little bit about targeting out in front of the harbor mouth, some of the etiquette things that we probably see on Facebook every now and then. And maybe some best practices. Well, I say I want a golf ball cannon, so that's one on my book.
You can't believe you didn't have leader do harbor patrol.
I wanted someone who would say yes.
Skip the etiquette part.
Forward button obviously, and then laser pointer in the middle if you want to point. I got the pizza because I wanted a snack. It is way more than I need, so I've asked Mike for help, but if some other people would help. I can't eat all this.
Well,
I shouldn't eat all this.
I'm Captain Sarah. Captain Chapman.
Sarah.
There's Captain Shane, and then I brought in the ringer, my brother Mark, first mates for me.
Huh.
They were out fishing till an hour ago, so I wasn't sure if they would make it.
That's what the smell was.
This,
Yeah.
hey, I was cleaning fish too, man. Yeah, I called Mark this morning. I was like, what are you doing tonight? Cause I wasn't sure if they were gonna make it. So,
You clean fish after after working at school?
Yeah.
That's impressive.
well, we had to beat them. So, so Josh asked us to come and speak tonight, on fall fishing. So we're gonna talk a little bit about trolling out in front of the harbor, shore fishing, and then Kevin's gonna talk a little bit about jigging for kids. So that's me in about 15 minutes. Okay, so yeah, so I just. All right, so etiquette. I put a picture of bumper boats out there because I feel like that's what we look like sometimes out in front of first scene. But just some general etiquette. I know we're just talking about it. Know the rules of the road. Who has the right of way? Some people are out there and don't necessarily know. The rules of the road. I put a picture up there.
I don't.
Yeah, well, that's your problem. Make sure we're giving each other space. So I don't know about you guys, but when I'm out there, I run max 2 boards aside because sometimes it's depending on how many boats are out there, it's 1 board aside. In fog, good luck. Just because widespread gonna end up bad. Full point up there, follow the pattern of the other boats. If people are doing a north-south troll, don't do a 90-degree angle into them. Yeah,
When you're talking about fishing outside the harbor, are we talking like 20 feet of water, 50 feet of water? How far out are you looking at the process?
within the
Green
green
can
can.
Green can to the mouth. From the green can to the mouth.
Okay.
Yeah,
So 30 foot or less.
Okay.
30 foot or less, yeah. And then this one, don't block the harbor mouth. That is my biggest pet peeve being a charter captain. We come in there and there's a bunch of boats just sitting there and
Those
then
jiggers.
the people who, yeah. And then there's the boats that are trolling the whole harbor mouth. That gets really annoying, especially on a southeast wind. When I have to come into the harbor mouth under power in order to get in, so I don't hit the rocks. Sorry, guys, I'm waking you up coming in.
Here's the thing on don't block the harbor mouth. It's the best spot to fish. There's a drop off right there where the
Yeah.
kids sit. That's fine. That's where you should be fishing. Move. Then go back. Like you can't block a navigation way, right? You can't block a navigation way. So catch fish your arm off, then fish some more, but just slide to the side, then move back.
It's a shame you say don't block. I mean, if you're moving, if you're trolling, obviously you're moving.
Yeah.
So you can move, but if you're jigging or spot locking or something, and just sitting there, that isn't right. Is that correct?
You should not be blocking a navigation way.
So even when you get in the river by the red cans, that's kind of a popular spot.
The
too.
channels,
And
yeah.
we should really call Travis and see what he has to say about it, you know? He's weighed in on boat traffic coming through the harbor mouth. He's called me a few times regarding it, so we really should see what Travis has to say about that. But I mean, rule of thumb, like, you should fish there. There's fish there, there's fish to be caught. Just if boats are navigating through it, get out of the way. You gotta move, you know, you can't block navigation ways.
Especially in the morning too. I mean, going out at 6 AM. Now, if you go out before 6, it's still pretty dark. So when you throw in a couple kayak fishermen, a couple of boats just sitting there. There's, yeah,
I put 52-inch curved LED light bars on the front of my boats because of boats fishing in the river channel in the morning in the dark. I've had them underneath my bow with no lights on.
Sunday, there was a pair of there were 3 kayakers out front in the evening, but two of them had really nice LED light,
Yeah,
much better than prior years.
Did they have the stick that had?
Yes.
Every like 6 inches?
It was
on
like a vertical white light stick versus just the one light.
And a lot of times the kayakers and smaller boats. They'll have the correct lighting on,
It's still
but
not
you put a 400-pound guy in it and suddenly, some lights get blocked, apparently, I don't. It's just science. But yeah, so just watch and careful if you're navigating the river, if you're not, just like I said, I put 52-inch LED light bars on the front of the boats. Because there's people that launch a boat that have no lights or their lights are blocked, and it's dark. A little overcast and it's dark, so.
It's an etiquette thing, but it's also a safety thing.
Kayaks don't need lights, is that correct?
Nope,
They don't. Yeah, technically they don't,
they don't need to live either if they.
but they have no right of ways either.
Yeah, for sure. If you're going through there, they're in your way, they're gonna get run over unless they move.
Yeah, that'd be a personal watercraft, which they have no right of way on the waterway. But I mean, like you said on Sunday, there were some that were very, very well lit.
Mhm.
And then there was a couple smaller boats that weren't.
We're
lit at all.
nothing, yeah.
And then you get to a certain spot and they do have a light on, but like I said, it's not high enough, so people in the boat are blocking it or
Dim.
whatnot, yeah, or dim.
Well, especially if there's some wake out there, like
Yeah.
if there's waves, even out on the big lake, you throw a small 18-foot boat out there. Hard to see them. Right. So. Just threw some stuff out there. We're gonna talk about trolling, shore fishing and jigging and then with skate. I don't know, what do you want to talk about, Marcus? You wanna talk-
Sure. Trolling? I thought I was trolling.
Oh, okay, sure.
All right.
Alright, go ahead, Shane.
Alright. So trolling, probably not gonna be very successful trolling when the water is as warm as it is. We're at 72, 73 degrees. It's gonna be really tough to convince those fish to bite. Was it 4 years ago we had cold water? 4 years? 21. Yeah. 3 years ago, we had cold water and the trolling bite was fantastic, all the way from the green can, to the mouth. And
From beginning of August.
yeah,
All the way till,
past Labor Day.
when the first rain.
And you wanna go with kinda act like you're brown trout fishing with shallow leads. Four color. I'd be careful with the four color. I'd say 1, 2s and 3s, or you can go with your 5/8 ounce trolling sinkers. Riggers, light lines, cause you're in that shallow water. Your spoons, plugs, everything that we've done historically. And then don't shy away from a flasher fly. I've had a lot of mornings where you in the dark or first light with flasher fly on the downriggers and those staging kings, they'll still smoke a flasher fly, a white on white, a white Howie fly, or a great big spin doctor, something real aggressive with a white fly. They'll hit them. When the water's this warm, I don't think they'll hit anything trolling. But if the conditions are right, definitely put all that out there.
How far from the ball? Cannonball, do you put your, throwing?
Flasher fly? Not far. 15 to 20 feet. I keep it tight. Those bites you're gonna get on them are gonna be real aggressive fish, they're gonna be interested in what the boat is and everything, especially because you're running lead cores and if you're riding slide divers, you run long leads off your downriggers, they're probably gonna end up in your slide diver through your lead cores. Long leads on downriggers tend to not end well. Usually end up in a tangle.
The leads you're running on your J plugs and spoons up the riggers.
It's a secret, Virgie.
It's a secret. No, I'll run those back. J plug's not as far back because they do dive. So if you run them way back and run them down, you'll probably put them into the seaweed. But I'll run a spoon back 100 feet back.
Is there a depth off the bottom?
Yeah, well, I'm sorry.
Is there a depth off the bottom that you're trying to avoid, or are you just trying to get as close as you can get with those?
I don't mess around with in shallow water, I keep my stuff up a bit,
4 or 5 feet,
10,
10 feet, okay,
8 to 10.
got it.
Most of those feeding keys are sitting right in the center of the water column.
Are they?
They're buried
Okay.
on the bottom. I mean, sometimes you run a spoon or a plug right in their nose and you'll get a reaction bite out of them, but I'd say most of the feeding ones are sitting about right in the middle of the water column.
I'd say it depends on your crew too, so like tournament fishing, if you have people that can be on riggers, you know, bumping them up and down. Yes, but like on a charter.
You have a dipshit first mate that, you know, isn't paying attention to anything.
You put everything above the shallowest, you know you're gonna go.
Yeah.
Leave it there.
So not pictured in here, you know, we all have our boxes of crankbaits and spoons. Whip out crankbaits. Husky jerks. JR13s, I love the DT series, what are they, DT 16s? The 16s, the Rapala 16, 14s, they're a fat, you know, it's a bass bait. Yeah, right there, that's the only one you need. Yeah, Fire Tiger, they got a rattle, swap the hooks out. And we're not getting all mega kings anymore, I've hooked kings with those Rapalas, and all you bring in is a bill. Or a chunk of balsa wood with the bill, or they just straighten the hooks, you know, they straighten the hooks out, but that's all fun in the game, but you can go with those crankbaits work great, reef runners, there's reef runners, you control the reef runners. Actually, this year, we're gonna give it a try here this week, and next week, but I think like a bandit, like a deep walleye bandit, my first mates were casting them last year in Kenosha and catching tons of Chinooks on bandits, anything aggressive, bright colors, a lot of rattles. Give it a try. You know, you don't have to run all J plugs, but if you do switch over to crankbaits, make sure you kick your speed back because those crankbaits aren't going to work at spoon speed. So if you go with crankbaits, go all in on the crankbaits. If your spoons, J plugs, flasher flies, make sure you're doing that because the two don't operate at the same speed. If you're salmon speeds and you're running crankbaits, those buggers are going way too fast. Keep that in mind. Same thing when you're brown trout fishing. If you're running crankbaits for browns, if you mix in other stuff, one of the two baits aren't going to be running at the right speed. That's all.
What speed are you?
I was just gonna ask.
Oh, cranks
Yeah,
over 2.0, a crankbait's gonna turn sideways on you. You know, 2 knots. So 2.2, 2.4. I mean, put a crankbait in the water and just start speeding up, and you'll see eventually you get to a speed, and that crankbait's gonna kick out to the side and it'll start floating on the surface. So you put it in the water and you'll see, you know, how fast you can get away going, but eventually you'll go too fast and that crankbait won't work anymore.
You find out with fast tracks also,
Fast tracks.
Rebel fast tracks.
I don't think I've ever ran them. Old Rebels, huh?
Well, the fast tracks, I think they made it go a little faster, but.
Is it a little
That'd
speed
be fitting for the name, you know?
Now,
Yeah. That makes sense.
science.
All right, that's all I got. If you're trolling, just be kind to people. There's enough anger in the world.
Other than directly in front of the mouth, you know, spots around the shoreline that are good to try. or-
Yeah, for sure. Off the zoo. I've actually had some great days in the fall. The cohos sometimes will go sit in there. I've had great days in the, you know, our little North Beach area there.
Yeah,
I've had some great days and just go check it out, have your shallow water spread and all the cohos that are coming to spawn, they'll sit up in there sometimes. So,
in like
If-
the 10 to 20 foot water or,
oh, like 15, 35.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
you know, there's all that structure. If you go there, you'll see, you know, if you trolled from the harbor mall to the point, you'll see, you know, like things come up and down, there's little
Yeah.
things and just randomly, there'll be those mature cohos sitting in there. I've had great days there, like thinking, oh, this is gonna be a tough day. You know, you're working the point, you're catching a few browns, a few stalker kings. And then, you know, you just say, hey, what the heck, I'm gonna go swing in here and there's those mature cohos in there. So it's always worth if you know, you fish the harbor mouth. And you got a couple at first light, just swing up there, see if,
keep going north.
yeah, just see if they're in there, because when they're in there, it's fun, they're aggressive. You know, if they're in there, it's exciting, they'll wreck a bunch of tackle on you. Yep. So, thanks, everyone.
We can stay up here.
Yeah.
Control east west.
Yeah, hey, that's the thing,
I gotta
that's the thing, do not troll east to west. Troll north or south, and. My opinion is if you're coming from north to south, you should take the inside,
Inside.
you should take the inside because you can work the edge of the wall. And you can turn properly, and then when you're working south, take the outside pass. When you do hard east to west, you throw a wrench in the whole thing. And this whole thing gets messed up if one person's not following it, so everyone in this room could do it, and we're screwed anyways, but you know what? We can try, but north, if you're on the southbound troll, take the inside, as you troll to the north, take the outside, that's my opinion, and when we get colos in the spring, that's the best thing to do too, and everyone can fish, you know, you could fish in a circle like that, we could have 30 boats fishing it with no problem. One boat decides to start doing east and west, and it's all gone to shit.
RJ, is that the same pattern for Door County? On the ridge?
All you gotta do is just do that and screw up
But is it-
the whole thing.
Southbound is inside there?
People that they just really don't know any better and they drive right up onto the bank.
If Donnie were here, he'd say, if you're gonna troll along the wall, respect the shore fish.
That was the next question I was going to ask, is how much room do you try to give to acknowledge the shoreman?
Oh, you don't need, I mean, you don't need to be that.
100 feet?
Yeah, you don't need to be that tight.
Okay,
They can cast pretty far, remember the shore guys, so just whatever, up South Pier, you gotta give them some bird, probably, at North Pier, the guy's way on the point.
I
way
won't,
and then you're down.
I won't name the charter up in Port Washington when I was a kid. They would cut so close to the lighthouse. So I created a pole with 60-pound braid and I throw a 5-ounce pyramid sinker as far as I could. I caught a lot of J plugs as a kid. A lot of J plugs. I got enough J plugs to stock a few more charter boats and I already got 5.
He still does it, I think.
He's out there casting.
No, I don't mean.
From the back of his boat now.
You just see posts on Facebook every once in a while of
Give the shore
a
fishermen,
charter guy up in Port.
yeah,
that-
give the shore fishermen their space. I mean, you got the whole lake.
Right,
I wanted to just add a couple of things to the trolling side, and we'll move into the shore fishing side is. Keep in mind, when you get rainfall, this is more generally for the root. In Racine Harbor areas, obviously it translates into any other harbor that's got, you know, some flow around it. Water quality does pay dividends at some point or another too, and a lot of times when you're fishing the shallow water this time of year, any kind of a northeast blow, any kind of a rain, it'll chalk up the water a little bit at a minimum. Keep that in mind as you're going through things and trolling and picking your baits. We've had a few trips where because the boat I fish on predominantly is fishing out of Winthrop Harbor, and we'll run up and fish the harbor mouth on occasion here in Racine. And what I like to look for is when we have a little bit of flow coming out of the harbor, because we've had a little bit of rain, but that's always gonna be a little, the dirtiest water in the area. So what we've done in the past is, like, for instance, if it's early September or late August, you've got cold water and you've got active fish. I'll put a RV chin music on a center rigger down, halfway in the column and just let that run. In the clear water, that might be spooking some fish out from the boat, but as soon as we get into that dirty water plume, that rod will go. Either the fish are sitting there or they're a little more active because they're in there, but that's been really good for us. And when we're out away from that dirtier water into some cleaner stuff, it's not going off, but our boards are working. Our 2-color lead cores, I'd say, and I've said this to a few people, 2-color lead cores at 30 foot of water is my favorite rod. We got 4 of them on the boat. 3 colors are okay. 4 colors I don't waste my time with anymore. I like being mid, higher in the column. It seems like either if I'm fishing browns or 4-year-old kings, they're coming up and biting it. It was year after year, it seems to be better. Now, don't get me wrong, we'll still throw some 3 colors and a 4-color here and there, but as soon as the 2-color goes off, we're putting another out, pulling a 4. We're going higher in water column. It seems to be better. But we've dialed that in over over years with preference. Another thing that I'll say for, for everybody watching and here, don't overlook stinger spoons for these 4-year-olds. Everybody loves to go to plugs, crankbaits, all that, mag spoons, all the bright flashy stuff to piss them off. Ludington Special and a shrimp Michigan stinger spoon have probably caught as many 4-year-olds for us as plugs have. And it's really kind of come out of like a mistake. We were brown trout fishing back in, I don't know, 2015, 2016 for the Illinois Club Series where we had a Grand Slam prize and we had 4 species. We needed a brown trout. So we ran into Kenosha and fished in the harbor there on the Labor Day tournament. We had 2 rods in the water, 2 downriggers with stinger spoons, and we caught 3 4-year-olds before we caught a brown trout. And we said, okay, well, that was interesting. That was fun, especially on 12-pound light lines. And then year after year, when we were fishing in that same water, looking for those 4-year-olds, we're running all our plugs, we're not getting bit. Then we said, okay, let's just try and catch a brown or something like that. Half the spread goes to stinger spoons. 4-year-olds start hitting that. Well, that's something to remember. So it's probably something I should have kept quiet for another week or so until after this tournament coming up this weekend. But one of our game plans is probably going to be throwing some stinger spoons on some downrigger rods and just grinding for browns and 4-year-olds, whatever it'll bite, or sheep's head, whatever will be fun. But yeah, that's just a couple extra things I wanted to add to the trolling side of things. So
When you bring up stinger, do you mean stinger in size too, or stingray, or
stinger and
stinger size? Okay.
Yeah, and as a guy that I started shore fishing and then moved into trolling and boat fishing, all that. And I don't know, for me, it's almost counterintuitive to run stinger spoons for 4-year-olds when I'm in a boat trolling. But go and look at anybody casting the wall anywhere in any harbor up and down the lake on either side in late August, September. They're throwing kale wobblers, crocodiles, little cleos, like the spoons that shore guys can cast and cover water with, the same size or smaller, and they're catching fish than what we normally troll. So why wouldn't it work? But we always go to plugs, fancy, more expensive stuff. So that was just, like I said, one little extra tidbit that we've done well with over the years, from the trolling perspective. So shore fishing and casting, I'll admit, I brought some of the lures that I've used over the years. I think this is the first time in 3 years I pulled them down out of the attic. I hate fishing for 4-year-old kings from shore anymore, unless it's late August, early September, there's cold water, like conditions are, typically a little better than unfortunately what we have right now. We've got, a lot of warm water top to bottom. Yeah, there's fish in the harbors. And it just, in my opinion, time is your friend in terms of getting some of these fish to bite. It's going to take time. It's going to take a little endurance to get them to go. But when it comes to presentations that have worked for me and a wide variety of conditions, like Shane was talking about the DP16s, I had a friend of mine years ago turned me onto these baits. I absolutely hate fishing with them, but they work so good because you can cast them far from a shore perspective. Cast them far means more time your lure's in the water. They've got a big wide bill on them. They're probably inch and a half, inch and 3/4 inch wide bill. Key is getting it down to diving depth and then just slow cranking it. If you think you're going slow enough, slow down more. It's painful fishing if you don't have patience, and I don't really have a lot of that. So all I'm looking for when I'm casting those things is literally just watching the rod tip just thump enough to know that bait is just wobbling back and forth. They're heavy baits, they're balsa, but they're heavy enough to keep down at depth. They're not trying to float like a balloon through the water column. So get them down to depth and then just slow crank it all the way. If you're fishing a wall like Kenosha Harbor or, Racine, the south wall, you get a lot of rocks down in front of there. So you end up having to kind of start pulling that up a little bit earlier than like Kenosha if it's a sheer straight wall. But reel it all the way to the wall and then work it up. It's stupid. Like, so I've had fish hit at the wall while I'm bringing that bait up through the water column. I've had them hit it and then immediately run into the wall and knock the bait out of their mouths, which is pretty frustrating when you spend, 4 hours trying to get a bite. But that has been a very consistent bait. More so, I fish Kenosha more than Racine just because I live 6 minutes from the harbor. So after 15 minutes of fishing and I get irritated with it, I can just go home and sit on the couch and watch TV. But I will say for us, like in that, and this kind of builds into what I was talking about earlier with the trolling side of things, those DT16s get down about 16 feet. Kenosha Harbor is about 25 feet through the most areas of the channel. There's a few little humps and fun little piles of sand and stuff. When we've also been in there trolling, if it's for a tournament or if it's for just fun fishing or whatever, downriggers at 15 to 16 feet down have been our best presentation. So like Kevin was saying, those fish in that mid column up off the bottom seem to be your biters, seem to be the ones that'll go and do it. So I do the same thing with crankbaits. Occasionally I'll throw a DT14, which DT literally stands for dives to. It actually prints it on the Rapala prints them on the bill. It says dives to 14 feet, 16 feet. I think they even make DT20s, but that sounds like pain to fish. So I've never bought one. But the 16s work so well, I just kind of stick with those. And then obviously not obviously, but if you move to different areas of the harbors as the fish progress in their run, get a little further back in the harbors, into the marinas, closer to where they're literally stocked. If it's at a boat launch or in Waukegan, they drive the boat or drive the truck out onto a cement pier and then dump them off there in October when the kings are just about dead and belly up. They're all circling right underneath that pier where the tube went into the water and they were like born there. It's amazing to see the fish return to like the exact spot that they were put in. As those fish progress and get back to that spot, wherever that spot is in the harbor, river, wherever you're fishing, dial your presentation into it. If you're fishing 12 feet of water, try something like a JR13 or whatever they're called, J13s. Jointed Rapalas, and again, what's worked for me the best over the course of time is fighting my urge to be impatient and just slow. As slow as you can reel baits, the better they work. They seem to work. Knowing that fish are there is kind of an important part of things, and for that, I'll go against what I just said. 3/4 ounce rattle traps are great fish locating lures. You might not catch a lot of fish on those rattle traps, but they cast a mile and you reel them quick in order to get the right rattle. Occasionally you will get a fish strike at them out of aggression, but when you've got a pile of fish doing circles in an area, you're going to bump those fish and you're going to hit them with that rattle trap, which is going to tell you that they're there. Don't get me wrong, occasionally you do snag one. That's not the intent. I hate snagging fish, it's pain. Especially when you get them in the tail and they just bury your forearm out because they're running a million miles an hour, just thumping that rod the entire time. It's terrible. But I don't know. It seems awfully appropriate. But I will say they're, like I said, they're good fish locating baits. If the fish aren't jumping and telling you where they're at, you can walk around, cover some area, try to find them by bumping them. And then just work through your presentation, your different lures to try and figure out what they're going to bite on. If they're going to bite, again, 4-year-old, small, fall kind of finicky. Not a huge fan of fishing for them anymore. I don't have the patience for it. And just getting older and don't feel like staying up all night to try and figure out that they're going to bite from 11:04 to 11:11. But that's kind of the gist of it for the most part. Setups, Sarah texted me earlier. I was like, what would you recommend for a setup? If you're getting into it, I prefer an 8.5 to 10 foot medium action rod. I think I've got a Browning Six Rivers. It was back in the day, it was a moderately priced rod. Now they're probably, it's inflation, they're probably over $100. They're like 65 to 80 bucks, depending on what you were getting back then. I like medium, not medium heavies, because I like to have a little bit more whip in the casting action, get, a little more follow through and fling through it. It allows you to really just cast a whole multitude of baits depending on what you're going with. And kind of on the frugal side, I don't like having 16 different rods for shore fishing applications. I've got 4, and 3 of them are bobber rods, various sizes. So I've got 1 casting rod. But that allows you to really throw just about anything you've got out there. Reel, from a budget perspective, I think the Fluger President is still one of the better reels that you can buy for, well, like $70 now. They used to be like $50 back last time I bought one, a few years ago. And then just 20-pound Power Pro. I wouldn't go with anything other than Power Pro. I just never had issues with it over the years, and that's the original Power Pro. So that's kind of the basic of it. I think this is the one other thing. Earlier in the season, when the fish are still on the outside of the harbors, they haven't made it into the river channels or into the back of the harbors. Spoons work really well. Again, I will skip a lot of spoons. I brought a whole box of spoons. I bought those about 10 to 15 years ago, and I think I stopped throwing them 12 years ago because crankbaits work really, really well. And I can fish them a little more with less, less weight. I can just cast it, start reeling rather than cast it, let it sink to the bottom, or start figuring out how far, how many count of 1,000 Mississippi do I wait for it to get down in the water column, then start reeling. It's too much to figure out. I just like throwing a crankbait, start reeling, and 15 minutes later, if I don't catch a fish, I can leave and go home. Yeah, that's, I guess, kind of the bulk of it. Any questions?
Are those Stinger spoons, going back to the trolling?
Yeah.
Are they copper blank or are they silver blank?
The shrimp.
Yeah, the
The
shrimp is
shrimp is
copper
copper.
or gold. But the Ludington special, we've had good luck with the just the chrome blank. Right.
Working on it too.
Yeah, it's a good one.
We got a big one on a greasy chicken wing.
Yeah,
And we were trying to catch a brown. I was like a 24-pounder last year.
Yeah.
We thought it was a fluke, I guess, but maybe it wasn't.
yeah,
And that's a copper
Even-
blank.
Even so with the smaller stinger spoons, even the baby moonshines. Those,
walleye spoons.
yeah, there's some big kings that want
And the
those.
warrior flutter spoons work good too.
Yeah. So and part of the reason I think that those small spoons work so good for trolling is like Shane was saying, like with the crankbaits anyways, you can really dial back your speed and get appropriate action out of your bait. Which then if you think about what's going on in those, this is me imagining this. Those fish are sitting there and we think you gotta piss them off in order to get them to bite, get them irritable. The longer something's in their face or near them, gets them irritable. I mean, I think about myself on like a hot, sticky, sweaty day. If somebody's sitting too close to me, I'm pushing away. It's the same reaction of just being mad. I think the same thing with those kings. The longer something's sitting there in their face, shining, irritate them, making vibrations that's just disturbing them, they might strike at it. I think that's what's going on with those smaller spoons is with a heavier blank spoon like a moonshine, which work really well when you're fishing out open water, normal stuff. You got to go a little faster to get those things moving at the right, flutter. But those light blank Michigan Stinger spoons of all sizes, but especially those Stinger size ones, you don't have to be going very fast for those to have a nice flutter and movement on it. It's my theory anyways. Isn't that what a lot of fishing is? It's just theory. So. Yeah, good question.
Are you using fluorocarbon leaders on the braid, or do you just run straight braid?
I just run straight braid. Once like for the same reason, we're just trying to irritate these fish. I don't think they're actually really
trying to eat for the sake of eating, it's more just aggressive strikes. So. I don't. To me, it's one less knot, it's one less extra thing to check and worry about. Now, don't get me wrong, when I'm trolling, everything's a fluorocarbon leader still, and it's fresh line, like I'm gonna go down to the boat Friday afternoon and put fresh leader on all our short leg cores and all that. But that's also because we can use those rods for a bunch of different stuff. Casting for fall kings, I'm just running straight braid, 20 pound. And the reason I use 20, not 30, not 40, is just to get extra line capacity on those reels in case you do hook into one of those real good fish, you know, or a fresh fish. That's really kind of it.
You do any jigging for them?
I don't, I haven't taken on to the,
Oh, we have.
yeah.
Yeah, don't steal his thunder.
We've got a jigger in the house. Pass over to him.
Jigger, please.
That's been patiently waiting.
He might, yeah. So, well, we'll pass it over to Kevin.
Well, no, wait.
What?
Not Kevin yet. Bobber.
Oh, I gotta talk about this too.
Well, I'll talk about the first part. So, well. So when I'm out fishing and people want skein from the fish that I catch, try and bleed your fish. Like if you know you're getting eggs from somebody or whatever, try and bleed those fish, you know, to get the blood out of those eggs. I just feel like we've had more success over the years on eggs of fish that have been bled, rather than just thrown in the cooler.
To that point, if you're shore fishing or boat fishing, you know, you have the time. If you get a hen, put it on a stringer, get it back in the water as soon as possible, and then this is the brutal part. Get it revived. Like revive that fish, get it kicking, ready to go, and then cut gills on it. Because you've got that fish like revived. It's not dead going belly up because it just exhausted itself fighting you for the last 15 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever. If the heart's pumping, everything's going, so you're gonna bleed that fish and it's gonna be more effective. And every time I've done that and then, you know, slit the belly on a fish to get the eggs out later on before I clean it, there's not a speck of blood left in the skeins. It makes everything a lot cleaner, a lot easier, and gives you a better quality of egg to start with before you move into really whatever your favorite curing or brining or boraxing or dry powders processes. There's a lot of great store-bought brines nowadays. I mean, back when I had more time to experiment with brines or powder cures, I was concocting all kinds of recipes. I don't have time to figure out which one works better in a given day anymore, because I might fish for kings with bobbers and skein 2 days in September, and you know, the last few years. That's not enough time to really gauge whether or not one recipe is working better than another. So there's a lot of really easy stuff out there from, you know, Poshki is really, you know, I think a good company that puts out a lot of good cures. But that's me just being lazy these days, really. It's what it comes down to. I know a lot of people will still kind of do some of the borax sugar cures with some Jello. Strawberry jello for the coloring. Question:
How deep in the water, how are you fishing your sea?
That's a really good question. I will vary that up a ton. I like to try and run at least 2 bobber rods. Again, when I do go bobber fishing for them, I like to vary it up. You know, kind of like, you know, I take the trolling approach. If you don't know anything, you don't have a report from anybody, you're going in blind, especially in a spot. One, I still try to locate those fish, see if they're even there. And then if their surface, like to me, I think if they're surfacing it at a quicker rate, I think they're probably a little bit higher in the water column. If they're only surfacing once here and there, I think they might be a little bit lower. So I'll do, you know, let that kind of inform me, but then I'll start varying up, and slip bobbers are king really with all of this, because it allows you to quickly adjust and change. I know some spots are really good if you don't have the luxury of electronics, because you know you're shore bound, for instance, or I've actually started seeing guys actually throwing live scope in the water while they're on shore, which is pretty interesting. But
I just, sometimes they're glued to the bottom and you gotta get it right in their face. Other times I like to start mid column, one below mid, one above mid and. And when I say that, fortunately, for the most part, in most of the areas I fish, I've gone through everywhere with a boat, kind of know what the depth is, generally speaking. So that's kind of a good, leg up on somebody that's just showing up to a harbor for the first time. For instance, they might not know that it's 17 foot deep off of that corner, and then you move over 10 feet, and it's 23. But those little differences can make or break it. But again, I try to vary it up. My impatience sometimes works there, meaning I'll start a bobber 8 feet down. If that doesn't get bit in 6 minutes, I'm reeling it in, dropping it another 3 to 6 feet, trying that. 6 minutes, doesn't get bit, I'll go until the bobber's laying on the side. Okay, it's on the bottom. Maybe I'll get a catfish if I'm lucky. But it's really just a lot of trial and error. I like to go through things fast. I don't have the patience. Like I said, a lot of times if I don't get them in 15 minutes, I'm on my way back home. But or on the way somewhere else. Cause I'm,
It says that now, we used to spend all night.
yeah, I knew. That was,
That was before you had obligations.
yeah, that's it.
That's before you had obligations.
I was living at home with my parents,
Yeah.
no house to take care of, no
Yeah.
girlfriend to worry about. Friends, I didn't care, they were either fishing with me or I didn't care about them, so. I cared about the fishing and we would spend all that, 8, 10, 12 hours straight fishing. Now I'm, like I said, if they're not biting in 15 minutes, I'm going home.
You become an old man.
Yeah, my legs hurt when I'm standing on concrete for too long anymore. It's not worth it. But that's also coming from the perspective of we fish all summer. We're fortunate enough to have, be able to be out on the boats, catching fish all summer. The diehard all-nighters were definitely out of an era where
That was all we had.
that's all we had was shore fishing. Counting down the days until the first west wind that came through August 20th and brought cold water near shore. I didn't care what was going on. Family parties, weddings, funerals, I was at the lakefront. Because you had to take advantage of the environment and conditions. Now, it's like 15 minutes, I'm done. All right, I'll pass on.
Kevin,
Master.
The legend.
Yeah, not really, but we were out jigging Kenosha the other night, went 4 for 6. It should have been 5 if someone was messing around with the king next to the boat and it went into the trolling motor. But yeah, so right seeing the main gap, obviously you can see where everyone sits right in front of the gap. That's a good place. Those drop offs there, those kings like to stack up right on the edge of that. Around the front side of the north side of the wall there's another little drop off that the kings will stack up in. You'll probably see another boat sitting there as well.
It's where the old river mouth used to carry
Yeah,
out.
so you go, in the river mouth on the north side of that rock jetty there's a little drop, you'll see them stacked up. As far as Kenosha Harbor goes, I like jigging Kenosha just because when those fish come in, they're kind of in a fish tank, they're not going anywhere, they're just swimming in circles right where that harbor else. Underneath the bridge there's a hole. You'll see about 100 of them just sitting there doing circles. Coast Guard station the other night had a lot of them loaded in there too, right out in front of that, even all the way up, if you got a boat all the way up against that wall there, they were 11 foot of water just sitting there. Setups for that, I really like running like a 7 foot or 7.2, something a little bit shorter, just so I can sit with it off the side of the boat and jig with it and it's not, way out. I am fortunate enough to I have a front facing sonar, so I'm kind of using that to scan and look where the biggest amount of fish are. I'm not really necessarily watching my bait go to them because you just kind of get taken away with staring at that. But if you're jigging towards a good number of fish, you're making those rips. You don't have to cast very far sitting off the boat there. Most of the time you're trying to position that boat so you're close to the fish. But yeah, like a medium or a medium light. Medium light can be a little bit light, but I'm usually throwing 1 ounce to 3/4 of an ounce jigging spoon. So you get a nice little flip with that rod tip, kind of bend it on you. Running 20-pound braid to 15 to 20-pound fluoro. The braid to flow, kind of like Mark was saying, sometimes in the dark, I don't really care if I break my fluorocarbon off, I'll just tie it right to the braid. But when it's light out still, I kind of use that as the visual thing, because I feel like most of those fish might be just feeding on that, not so much an aggression thing.
So are they hitting on when it's dropping down?
Yeah,
When do
so going to, kind of my technique is 9 times out of 10, those fish are hitting as that bait drops. You can watch that jigging spoon's the slender, it's going up and down as you rip. I lift it up and give it kind of a good rip to bend that rod tip, and that'll kind of spin that spoon like that coming up. And then as soon as you leave that tension off of it, that spoon will sit sideways and flutter like that coming down. That's usually when you'll feel, you kind of leave that weight on that end of that rod tip as you're kind of feeling it down. And that's when you'll feel it, they'll come up and eat it.
Cool.
The, colors, whatnot, I don't really have a favorite, as long as it glows when it's dark. That's kind of been the way I go. I like the P-line jigging spoons a lot, which is that top one up there. That's the one I caught. Caught two of the 4 that we landed on. Was on that one the other night. And blade baits as well. They work very good. They're kind of like a rattle trap minus the rattles in it. They just vibrate very hard as you're ripping them. Using that front facing sonar again, I like to watch how they react to different baits. Most of those fish, like I was saying earlier, the ones that are feeding are sitting right in the center of the water column. The ones that are sitting high typically don't get much out of them. The ones that are low, you usually spook them as you're trying to jig close to them. Most of those fish, it's kind of on a bite window, really. You could jig for 4 or 5 hours straight, and then all of a sudden in 5 minutes, you're hooking up 3-4 times in a row, just because they just decided they go nuts. In Kenosha, I find that to be a lot around like 3 a.m. As soon as that last guy walks off the wall, and there's not baits flying at him from every different direction, you kind of see a little bit of a window open up then. But jigging's really effective. A lot of luck, middle of the day when nothing's going on too. Sometimes you just trigger that right one to go. They don't make a lot of jigging spoons with rattles in them, which would be nice. Just when that water gets clear or dirtier, I feel like that it's a little bit tougher for them fish to kind of see what's going on. That's when I would use more of a blade bait or a rattle. I'll even jig rattle traps for them too. It's getting a little more noise in the water when it's harder to see. Yeah, sometimes they like the fast erratic, jigging, kind of moving it quick, staying right up, say somewhere between 8 and 10 feet of water. And then sometimes they're eating that slow, you give it a long pull up, and then it's that slow flutter down that gets them going. It's fun way to, a little bit different than what a lot of people are used to. It's a fun way to do it. And when they hit like a ton of bricks, just like anything else, as soon as you let that thing go down, it's no mistake that you got one on there, because they're usually burning some line out of it.
are all the boats spot locking, or are any of them anchoring in place?
Boats I've been on recently spot lock's the way to go over an anchor, in my opinion, because that fish is gonna run you around the boat a couple times. You got an anchor line in there, he's probably gonna get the hook caught on that anchor rope. That's just what they do. Or he'll spin you around it a couple times and break off. But if you do have an anchor and you hook up, sometimes you gotta lift that anchor up out of the water and get it out of your way, so you don't.
So some of
Are
them
you
are
looking at the
anchored.
full water column or just say the bottom 10 feet?
I'm not really going too close to the bottom. I'm mostly staying between 8 to 12 foot on that. So
Same range you were talking about earlier.
yeah, it's kind of right in the middle. I have seen a few of them eat on the live scope, but most of the time you're not really watching. they'll just be sitting there, not doing anything, you know, or they're just kind of swimming around, and then all of a sudden you see one just start throwing nuts all over it, and then come straight. 9 times out of 10 too, they come straight up and eat it. It's not like coming from the side or anything. They just do their little flip thing and then boom, they smoke it. So it's a lot of fun.
Video game fishing.
Good different technique to go and try.
So we have the 25-foot boat. I'm like, I'd love to try that.
Yeah.
I know our neighbors' kids would like to as well. You know, we could, but just where to park our boat, we'd have
Right.
to drop an anchor.
Yeah.
And-
If you, I'd say for your boat, you know, I wouldn't try to go in the harbor too much.
Right.
Just cause probably take some people off, you know, getting in the way,
I
but
feel
if
like
you're on the outside of the wall, like I was saying. on
That
the
other
side
hole,
there in that
yeah.
hole, that's a pretty good spot, you know, most people can navigate
Troll
around.
around.
And,
I'll make a
You're
lot
not
of friends,
blocking.
I'm sure.
right,
Park him right
That-
there.
We know what your boat looks like.
Everybody knows what my boat looks like.
but yeah, that's about it. Any questions for jigging?
With any,
Try like you were saying, trying to find a spoon that rattles, what about like a buckshot rattle spoon, like an ice spoon?
I mean, I haven't tried that yet, but that's a good,
Oh, yeah, I got giant ones that are 3/4 ounce. You know,
I got a giant.
no, I got big. I got
Fishing.
Oh, sorry.
Hook a lead weighted treble hook to the back of your rattle trap. And...
yeah, there you go. As long as it's painted, right?
No, officer, I swear I'm not snagging. Oh,
Alright, well, that's what we got.
anything on the casting or the jigging scent wise, or you know, rubbing anything on it like tuna, or are you just straight up on all that?
I haven't really messed around with that much.
Yeah, me
I
neither.
have- He's got 15 minutes in it.
Yeah, I got 15.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, you don't even have time to put the scent on.
One more thing.
The one-
My favorite is when I do get a fish in 15 minutes.
Then you
I'm
got-
like,
Then you'll be there
"Alright,
for 4 hours.
No, I'll give it another 15 minutes. If I don't get another one, I'm out. So I think
Yeah, at least you're
30 minutes.
consistent.
Yeah.
You just reset the counter.
Yeah. I just, well, I put this together at school. But,
This.
Fire Tigers.
Our parts paid for by the Whitnall School System.
I just put like my favorite patterns that have worked best. Definitely the Fire Tiger, Wonder Bread, it's been good. I think I don't know if that's Perlman and Blue, but that by far fishing on fishing crew tournament fishing, that has been our best. J plug. I mean, you put a Wonder Bread on anything, it'll go. Bloody nose will go.
Anything with black dots too, that seems to really get them going.
Are you using the smaller J plugs or are you using bigger?
What size?
I mean, earlier when I'm trolling out on the big lake, you know, not necessarily for kings, I'll use the smaller ones, but. I use it both.
I like the number 4 J plugs, so not the biggest one,
Right,
not the smallest one, the one right in the middle, and then. Whatever the numbers are for the, you know, silver hordes or, because I think silver hordes sizes start like a different number.
Mhm.
So like that number 4 Lure Jensen J plug, which is probably like a 4-inch plug.
Some
Has
seed
been,
box.
yeah, I've got a few over here.
The box.
Actually, grab a bait.
Yeah, I know where to send the bill to. Those are priceless, you can't get them anymore, which is sadly, you've got a real affinity for like. If tackle companies wanted to make $1 million off of me, all they gotta do is discontinue.
Go to the old
everything.
stuff.
Yeah, or just discontinue something that catches fish. I'll buy every one I can, wherever I can get it. And
We haven't bought any Tacomas.
no gray Dakotas have been purchased between the two of us.
How about moonshines?
Glass.
Lately.
Glass.
I don't really care about that whole deal.
Moonshine suck.
Yeah,
At Moonshine Lures suck. Acme Tactics suck.
I think
Alright.
we're.
Here you are, Josh.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think the paint spoon blade is fine, it's the everything else.
Yeah, I heard the split rings,
Rings and the
Oh.
hooks.
and the hooks.
Everybody complaining about bent spoons, it's because they're leaving their fish in their net.
Sure. There's those fish, like they're bending old spoons, they're bending new spoons, I don't, that I think it should. Oh, it's.
Bend it back.
Oh, yeah. All right, thank you all. I've actually had, the neighbor's kid has wanted to do some jigging and I'm like, I don't know how we park our boat without pissing someone off. Yeah, so. Anything gear wise, equipment wise, maintenance wise, we're getting toward the end of the season. I know, we already talked to Riverside briefly, and I think you were gonna circle back with them, but we're probably gonna have them in for end of season maintenance here in the next month or two. But I know, amongst our members, as we get into some of the servicing, I've seen a real good amount of camaraderie about borrowing tools, calibration equipment and stuff. I've picked up and borrowed alignment rods from Jeff, and heck, if it wasn't for Bob, I'd still be stalling in my shifting because my shifter switch broke and they don't make it anymore. A couple upcoming events next weekend, Sarah, the 21st. The KFCA's got their annual river cleanup, just like ours in the spring. They do theirs for the Pike River. That is going to be at Zone 4, parking lot 4. So that's where the old playground used to be, kind of in the middle of the park. But they'll start there and they'll do the whole break the river open cleanup, pretty much from the lakefront all the way up to Pets. They've got it on their website for information on it. And then for us, Jeff is not here. I know Mary Lee was on, but she was having trouble with the audio, but just a reminder that we have the Weird Day coming up too. Looking for volunteers for that, for the different demos and just for helping organize and set up tours and the food. Other business, Jim, you mentioned it earlier during the Salmonorama committee meeting, but our board nominations, not only a committee, but also our board nominations are coming up. I'd ask everyone to take a little bit of thought in not only yourselves, but people around you within the club or people outside the club that have a passion for fishing too, and maybe looking to invite some new people in. We do have some key skill sets that our group recognized earlier. Aside from just having the free time and willingness to get involved in the monthly operations of the club, Jim mentioned we'd like to see people who have some experience in multimedia, video editing and production.
Sure. Sorry.
Yeah, I didn't think I made out that name there specifically enough, but I'll have to decode that later. And then, website, we're always looking for help on that. We have 2 different sites that we're running, and our club site's rusty to say the least, and Salmonorama site, we're always looking for help on too. And then accounting and bookkeeping, it's a big task. We have the opportunity to use Jason and some of the other stuff, but we would like to bring in more people with it so that we're not relying on the same couple people over and over. Any other new business or other business that anyone wants to bring up for the club? Nope. All right, otherwise, again, KFCA coming up. Our committee meeting on Monday, September 30th is here. Membership meeting for the 9th, and then days going forward. With that, I think that's everything we have for the meeting. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Oh, Mary Lee did message me, Sarah, for the fish. She said.
Yeah.
First of all, she said everyone at the VOW is extremely thankful for Salmon Unlimited and everything we did from the donations. She said that they can be dropped off from 8 AM to noon, Monday through Friday. And 8 AM to 4 PM Tuesday, Wednesday, Monday. Yeah, I will, yeah. And then I'll get you her number, because on outside times, it might also be able to accept them with me.
Like sometimes there's fish and I don't know what to do.
Yes, yeah, and they went from, oh, this is gonna last a while. I think the guys are so used to getting the same meat donations, the protein change was appreciated, guys and gals. Yeah.
Right now, it's got a lot of. Are you at the bolt
Yeah,
shop?
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was running something. It's last week. But they're not all, they're not.
Message was relayed over Mary Lee, and I also gave her your number just so that she has a point of contact over there. So, you know, they said that they sometimes do between tournaments and then also runs, they get extra fish that, the guests just don't want. So there might be another opportunity to get some from some of the charter boats. They've got 5 boats here now, and we're seeing under the schools out, their jackpot names, all under the same operation, so definitely a good tournament.
You're thinking the same thing, like, and I wanna. We're gonna square away with it. Okay, sorry, I'll lose one. Okay, cool. All right. Good luck.
Biggest tournament. I'd say one of my biggest, we were fighting for not to be alive for first year.
Yeah.
Put that 18 inches back.
That's.
Yo, I worried about, you know, your store that I did in the harbor, because I thought if I get outside the middle cans, kind of like where the sugar's supposed to be lying usually is. That's out of the way, the spotlight is to be in that corner tonight, and yes, we can still do something, you know, I don't know. But I'm like, I go out front, there's some red lights, so I'm trying to control it. That's good, chicken leg. Like 15 hours.
Well, there's a reason why. My one is a 2001.
There were 2 tires. I don't know when. And they're looking at me like, guys, it's not a legal change.
So we said.
Yeah.
So we said people. He's like.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, that's what I was really interested in. It was like it's a little bit. It's not like some level. And then they had that like it looked like they were at a break. And then like that's great. You know, I went to all the Mexico where they had like colors just priced up and they was like. Looks like a damn disc.
That's the only thing. And I was thinking.
Well, yeah, or basically what it is, probably. Oh, yeah, obviously that matched up, but somebody else is ready for. I guarantee they didn't ship you that guy, so from the States. Yeah. Or just take and just everybody. Yeah, read it out a little. Yeah. Well, Walsh, yeah. Probably.
We're having to have.
But they were, they had these leaders.
Perception, I think they can get.
Patients too.
It's getting over.
And
we had to bring back anyway.
so now she had noticed that she goes there once a week and I'll see how like. How do you like me? She's like, at some point, you guys have to learn, we can get all black people.
Yeah, so check, and I brought that up. And I figured out this process, I said, anybody that's. You're signing up, so you're gonna come in and really help fucking drywall.
I mean, it's got
It's a. I gave her a number that you arrange this, the South Society.
In process.
So.
And.
I had a 7th interview on Monday, and they said, well, there's one person.
That means large numbers.
Yeah, yeah,
Large.
my interview was at 5 a.m. We're really like that. So that was. Well, we posting this interview.
And I have to work for a large-ish.
That's a long ass file. Very good.
We're not going to the US.
I can't believe it. He just got. Right now, I'm a production manager running all the supervision, pretty much everything, it sounds like I'm gonna get all the responsibilities.
Basically.
But I told her, I said,
I mean, for us, it's-
straight out, you can put everybody else.
Sit there,
There's no chance.
You wait on it, there, I can't look at it. You know, see,
It's not.
you know, once they all-
I mean, it might be better at managing, since you're not paying me for my managing, so you're paying me for.
Yeah.
The knowledge I have of our customer base, I would